Heads up, Monster Hunters, a new absolute nightmare just dropped. If you've ever thought, this creature I'm fighting just isn't terrifying enough, well, this is the video for you. I recently went hands-on with the final preview build of Monster Hunter Wilds, and I got to take on two monsters that Capcom did not include in its beta test, and they are both straight nightmare fuel. So let's take a look. Hey there, PC gamers. I'm Wes Fenlon, senior editor and unabashed insect glaive rocketeer in Monster Hunter. I recently had a chance to play the final preview build of Monster Hunter Wilds before the game ships and fight against Rompopolo, which is a monster that Capcom has shown before today but not let anyone actually fight, and Nerscylla, which is a returning monster from Monster Hunter 4. Capcom included some footage of Nerscylla in its recent showcase, but that was just a tease because Nerscylla wasn't fightable in the beta test. The version of Wilds that I played is notably different from what Capcom showed off in its first beta, and it's even new and improved compared to the second beta, which was running in early February. So if you try beta 2 and are worried about the hit stop, don't panic, it's going to be okay. The build of the game I played incorporated the feedback that Capcom got from that first beta, which included the hits not being punchy enough, there not being enough hit stop on heavy weapons, and the poor insect glaive had lost a key piece of its identity with most of its aerial capabilities stripped out. Well, I'm happy to say that the version I played, it felt like Monster Hunter to me, specifically Monster Hunter World, which is the game in the series that I've put by far the most time into. And yeah, there's some more good news. Capcom has restored the insect glaive to its former aerial glory, adding back in the ability to dodge in midair and attack in midair and generally just stay in the air a lot. Is jumping the most efficient way to deal damage in Monster Hunter? Absolutely not, but it might be the most fun. At least I cannot help myself. I love playing with the insect glaive, so you're going to see a good bit of hang time in the footage I captured for this video. There was one other big question left for me for Monster Hunter Wilds launch after playing this preview, and that was the PC performance. Unfortunately, the preview event that I attended had us playing on PlayStation 5, not PC, but I was pleasantly surprised to see the 60 FPS performance mode on the console running pretty well, and it looked pretty good to my eye. I expected either more drops in frame rate or image quality while I was playing it, but there wasn't anything that really stood out to me too bad in either of those directions. So hopefully that bodes well for the PC release, but the recent performance benchmark that Capcom released for Wilds also wasn't super encouraging because it does show some pretty major dips in frame rate when you get into the big weather effects popping off or monsters with lots of AI and like complex attack animations playing. The benchmark gave you an average frame rate, but that wasn't really useful information, I feel like, for what kind of the heavy scenes in the game are going to actually be demanding from our PCs. So I'm not sure if the PC performance is going to be where we hope it'll be at launch. We're still going to have to see what it's like in the final build. I'm expecting a few bumps and performance-related patches after launch, considering that this is the first time ever that Capcom has launched a Monster Hunter game simultaneously on PC and consoles. But I think it's time for us to get to what we're really here for in this video, which is the two new monsters. So let's start with a true freak after my own heart, Rompopolo. So Capcom has shown some video of Rompopolo before, but I finally got to fight him, and my first thought was probably about the same as yours if you're looking at this footage right now. Wow, that monster looks fucked up. Rompopolo is like a cross between a praying mantis and a dinosaur, but instead of muscles and a skeleton or whatever he's got in there, his body just looks like he's bursting blood sausage. Like he's just this overstuffed, disgusting, I don't even know. It gives me the willies. But honestly, I love the design. The base version of Rompopolo is surprisingly a pretty easy fight, though. It looks kind of more intimidating than it actually is. I imagine I'll probably eat those words when I play the final game and end up having to fight a tougher Rompopolo in the post game or something. My hunt was pretty short and straightforward, honestly. Capcom had 4 of us at the preview event team up to fight against Rompopolo. So my main takeaway from the fight, look out for Rompopolo's stinger, which it can kind of whip behind it if you're attacking from behind and hit you. And you also need to beware of poison. He can spit out poison from its mouth or beak or whatever that is, but also has this big like AoE attack where it perches up on its butt and does this like huge fart cloud that hits space all around it. So you have to watch out for that one. But otherwise, yeah, Rompopolo didn't seem to be too threatening. When it moved locations partway through the fight, I had the chance to appreciate one of Wild's new features, which is being able to sharpen your weapon while you're riding your mount, which can auto run to chase the monster you're hunting. So you don't even have to guide your mount. You can just let it run and sit there and sharpen your weapon or drink a potion or something while you're going. It's really convenient, but I do worry a little bit that Wilds is too streamlined in some places. I'm not sure how I'll feel in the final game, but it seems like Capcom is minimizing the time spent doing anything out in the environment that isn't direct combat with your intended monster. I know some fans of this series, especially people who've played thousands of hours across multiple games or really, really love the immediacy of Monster Hunter Rise, will probably love to hear that. It's probably exactly what they want to hear. But one of the things that I actually loved in Monster Hunter World was that even if the implementation was a little basic, the process of going out into the environment, finding clues to the monster's whereabouts, I thought that was a really cool idea. And I liked that kind of that fantasy implementation of hunting the creature, not just fighting it. Could it have been better? Absolutely. It did get kind of old as you played a lot of that game, but I was hoping for Capcom to do more to expand on that part of the experience and not just sort of minimize it and let you tell your mount, go after the monster, and then just have it take you there. But this was a very focused preview event, so it's hard to tell quite how indicative it was of the full game. I'm going to let the rest of the fight play out now, and then we'll talk about our next monster, Nerscylla. I hope you're not scared of spiders because Nerscylla looks like a giant bug straight out of Starship Troopers. It's basically this huge spider with spindly legs and jangly flesh, or actually, I'm not sure it's flesh. I think it's like a raggedy blanket or something on top of it, an old poncho. Either way, I thank Nerscylla for wearing some sort of covering so I don't have to fully perceive it. The sword and shield proved to be a pretty good match for this fight as Nerscylla is highly mobile, and I was able to use the weapon's slide move to kind of weave in between his legs and get in some quick attacks. The short reach of the sword and shield did make it a little harder to manually target some of Nerscylla's wounds. Those are specific spots that you need to damage in Monster Hunter Wilds to help stagger creatures, and they're a big part of team play now. It's capitalizing on those wounds that other hunters open up or that you open up, so then you can all sit there and wail on the monster while it's staggered. Nerscylla did seem fairly easy to knock over, so I'd love to see what someone with a greatsword or a hammer can do on those spindly legs. Its major attacks seem to be a kind of a long-range pincher move with its pincers or antenna or whatever these jagged things are that sticks out from the sides of his head. And Nerscylla can also spout this sort of spider web and swing around the arena on it, though hitting it when it's trying to do that did offer us another opportunity to knock it over and deal some good damage, which is something we got into a pretty good groove of in this fight. So I'll let you watch the rest of the hunt play out. Like Rompopolo, this one went down pretty easily, but I imagine Nerscylla probably has some more moves up its sleeve when you have to fight it at a higher rank. So hideous spider body or not, you might even feel a little bad for Nerscylla by the time this fight plays out. Okay, so those are the two fights that were the most significant part of my final preview with Monster Hunter Wilds. I also got to play a good 3 hours of the opening of the game, which is heavily story driven and introduces you to the basics of combat, riding the secret, that's your mount, the new weather effects that can dramatically change the environments. Capcom's clearly done a lot of work to make this feel like a more seamless narrative experience than any prior Monster Hunter game. There's very little time spent loading. It feels more like you're going on an adventure or a journey, and it has a lot less of that kind of artificial structure you get from transitioning back and forth between the hub and these isolated environments. The combat is still as complex as ever, but I think the structure that they're going for here is going to be much friendlier to new players who may have tried World or tried Rise and found them maybe like a bit too front-loaded with stuff that's just standing between you and just getting out there and playing the game. But what I'm really curious about is the end game. How many new monsters there are going to be to hunt after you've worked your way through the meat of the story, how much of the new environmental system and changing weather effects stuff ends up affecting those hunts, makes them feel different each time. Kind of the full scope of that Capcom is clearly keeping under wraps until launch, but that is almost here. Wilds lands on PC and consoles on February 27th. So again, I'm Wes from PC Gamer. That's it for this video, but if you want more Monster Hunter Wilds coverage, check out PCGamer.com.